There are moments in life that feel like something greater is at work, like a silent force is guiding you towards someone for a reason you can't yet explain. You meet a stranger and feel a deep sense of recognition. You keep running into the same person in different places. You have a dream, and the very next day you receive a message that feels connected. These aren't coincidences, at least not in the way we usually think of them. According to Carl Jung, these are examples of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal the hidden structure of the unconscious. And when it comes to love, synchronicity might be the way the universe tells you, pay attention, this is important. Jung believed that our unconscious mind is not just a repository of forgotten memories or repressed emotions. It is a living, active force that constantly seeks wholeness, a return to unity between the conscious and unconscious parts of ourselves. When we're drawn to someone on a level we can't rationally explain, it may not be attraction in the conventional sense. It could be that our psyche has recognized something significant in that person, an archetype, a mirror, a key to our own integration. We often talk about meant to be as if it's destiny written in the stars. But Jung saw it differently. He believed that what feels destined is actually the natural unfolding of your deeper psychological reality. The people you're drawn to, especially in profound and mysterious ways, often reflect something you've lost, denied, or forgotten within yourself. They appear not to complete you, but to awaken you. This is where the concept of the anima and animus comes in. Jung described the anima as the feminine aspect of the male psyche, and the animus as the masculine aspect of the female psyche. These inner figures often project themselves onto people we meet, causing us to feel that a person is perfect, or familiar, or irresistibly important. What you're really experiencing is not just them, it's the part of you they represent. And when that projection aligns with a real connection, something powerful happens. It feels like the universe is sending you a sign. But how do we recognize such signs? How do we distinguish between projection and truth, between fantasy and something deeper? The first clue is emotional resonance without explanation. If you meet someone and feel immediately moved, not necessarily in a romantic way, but in a way that stirs your soul, that could be a sign. Your unconscious is responding before your mind catches up. You may feel vulnerable, exposed, even shaken. These are not always comfortable sensations. They are signs that your defenses are dropping and something important is entering your psychic field. Second, repetition. Synchronicity often speaks in echoes. You think of someone and they text you. You dream about someone and then see their name repeatedly throughout the day. You keep crossing paths with them without effort or planning. Jung would say this is the psyche creating patterns to get your attention. The unconscious doesn't use words. It uses symbols, timing, and emotion. The more persistent the sign, the more important it is to pause and reflect. Third, symbolic alignment. Sometimes the universe speaks in metaphor. Let's say you're struggling with loneliness and suddenly you meet someone whose presence feels warm and familiar. You see butterflies that day, symbols of transformation. A song plays with lyrics that describe exactly how you feel. You may dismiss this as coincidence, but Jung would ask, what if your psyche is showing you that this moment matters? What if reality itself is reflecting your inner world? Of course, not every connection that feels intense is meant to last. Some people appear in our lives not to stay, but to catalyze change. Jung called this the messenger archetype, people who awaken you to a part of yourself or teach you a lesson your soul needs to grow. And while our ego might want to cling to these relationships, the deeper self understands that not all signs are about permanence. Some are about awakening. Still, when someone appears in your life, accompanied by synchronicity, emotional charge, and symbolic meaning, it's worth paying attention, especially if you feel more like yourself when you're around them. especially if your fears rise to the surface, not because the person is dangerous, but because they make you feel seen. This brings us to a hard truth. We don't always recognize the one because we're not yet the version of ourselves who can meet them fully. Jung believed that until we integrate our shadow, the parts of us we hide, reject, or fear, we project those qualities onto others. We either idolize them or resent them. But true connection begins when you can look at someone and see them not as a fantasy, not as a savior, but as a mirror. That's why love, in its deepest form, is not about possession. It's about reflection. And the signs the universe sends are not about finding someone to complete you. They are about finding someone who reflects who you're becoming. When you begin to understand this, you stop asking, "Is this person my soulmate?" and start asking, "What part of me awakens in their presence?" That's a more powerful question, because now you're not chasing a sign, you're listening to yourself. And here's something else. The universe doesn't send signs only through other people. It sends them through your own reactions. If you feel a deep pull towards someone, ask yourself, is this excitement or anxiety? Is it desire or fear? Often, we confuse chemistry with familiarity, and familiarity can be born from past wounds. Jung warned us, be careful not to mistake intensity for destiny. Sometimes, what feels magnetic is actually your trauma calling for attention. But sometimes it is more than that. Sometimes, someone shows up in your life just when you've stopped searching, just when you've begun to heal, just when you've made peace with being whole on your own. And their presence doesn't fill a hole. It expands your wholeness. That's when you know it's real. That's when the signs feel soft but certain, not loud and desperate. In those moments, the universe whispers, not shouts. There is a quiet alignment between your soul and your path. And that alignment creates synchronicities, not because the world changed, but because you did. If the unconscious truly speaks through symbols, emotions, and patterns, as Carl Jung taught, then one of the most profound ways it communicates is through the people we meet, especially those who stir something deep in us. But how do we know if someone is truly meant for us? How do we recognize the signs that the universe, or more precisely the self, is pointing us toward a meaningful connection? Let's explore the signs that go beyond logic and surface attraction. These signs don't come from neediness or projection. They arise from a deeper alignment, one that your unconscious is trying to bring into awareness. 1. Recurring encounters that feel intentional. One of the most common signs is the mysterious repetition of contact. You run into the same person in different contexts without planning. You think about them, and suddenly you see their name, their face, or something strongly associated with them. Jung called these meaningful coincidences, not random, but reflective. These moments are often dismissed by the rational mind as happenstance, but the symbolic mind asks, why now? Why this person again? Repetition is the unconscious insisting on being heard. It's a knock on the door of your awareness. The same person appears at the intersection of your thoughts and the external world, indicating that they may be carrying something significant for your psychological journey. 2. Emotionally charged. First encounters. Sometimes when you meet someone who is truly meant to shift your life, the energy is undeniable. It doesn't always feel romantic or joyful. Sometimes it's overwhelming, unsettling, or deeply vulnerable. You feel exposed in their presence. Not because they're doing anything to you, but because they reflect something in you that you weren't ready to see. This intense emotional charge is often a sign that the unconscious has been activated. It's like a pressure valve releasing energy stored in your shadow or your unlived self. These connections make you feel like time slows down or speeds up. You leave the conversation feeling altered, and you might not understand why. 3. Dreams that feature them symbolically. According to Jung, dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. If someone appears in your dreams repeatedly, or even once, but in a vivid, archetypal way, it's not just a reflection of your desires, it could be a message. In dreams, the person may represent a part of yourself, but sometimes, especially when synchronicities follow, they represent an actual soul connection. Perhaps you dream of walking with them through a forest, or standing on the edge of a cliff together. These images are symbolic, a journey, a risk, a transformation. Pay attention to what your psyche is trying to process through their presence. Dreams prepare the conscious mind for integration. If someone shows up in your dream and soon after appears in waking life, or vice versa, that convergence is worth noting. 4. You feel seen without having to explain yourself. True connection doesn't require constant performance. One of the clearest signs that someone is meant for you is the sense that you don't have to earn their attention or affection. You feel accepted, even in your silence. You feel safe, not because they say the right things, but because their energy is familiar in a way that goes beyond explanation. This feeling of being seen is not about validation. It's about resonance. You feel recognized on a soul level, not just admired for your surface. And often, this recognition brings both comfort and fear, because it means being vulnerable without defenses. 5. The relationship challenges you to grow. Not all signs come wrapped in bliss. In fact, one of the most overlooked signs of a meaningful connection is discomfort. Not because the person is harmful, but because they stir your inner world in ways that force you to confront yourself. You might find that old wounds surface, or that your ego feels threatened. But instead of running, something in you feels called to face these feelings. This is a hallmark of a transformational relationship. Jung would say, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When someone is meant for your growth, they don't fit perfectly into your existing story. They help you write a new one. They mirror not just who you are, but who you're capable of becoming. 6. They enter your life at a critical inner turning point. Another key sign is timing. Often, the people who are meant to play a powerful role in your life don't arrive when everything is stable. They arrive during chaos, transition, or awakening. Right after a loss, a crisis, or a moment of surrender. This is not coincidence. The unconscious creates opportunities for healing through human connection. When you meet someone at a moment when you're questioning everything, they may not bring answers, but they bring clarity. Their presence makes your path feel more aligned. They don't fix you, but somehow you stop trying to fix yourself. Because now you're seen. 7. Your intuition becomes louder around them. Sometimes the most powerful sign is internal. You feel pulled to them with no logical reason. Your body reacts, heart rate, breath, nervous energy. Your mind races, but your heart feels calm. You feel more like yourself, but also more aware of your fears. Intuition is not a magical feeling. It's your unconscious communicating through the body and emotion. When you feel both drawn and centered around someone, that's often a sign of alignment. But if you feel anxious, obsessed, or dependent, that's a red flag. Synchronicity creates clarity, not confusion. The right person won't just light up your world, they'll bring you home to yourself. These signs are not rules, they're invitations. The universe doesn't force you into connection, it whispers. And sometimes the loudest messages come in the softest echoes. The goal is not to chase these signs, but to become present enough to notice them. Carl Jung's wisdom teaches us that every outer event has an inner counterpart. When the universe brings someone into your life, and it feels meaningful, symbolic, charged, don't dismiss it. Pause, reflect, ask, what is this connection asking me to learn, face, or remember? And most importantly, be ready. Because sometimes the person you're meant to meet is waiting for the version of you who finally believes they're worthy of it. We often say we want love, that we're ready for the right person, that we're waiting for a deep, soulful connection. But what if the real question isn't whether love is coming, it's whether we're ready to receive it? According to Carl Jung, the unconscious doesn't just attract what we want, it attracts what we are. And if there's unresolved pain, shame, fear, or self-doubt within us, even the most meaningful connection can feel threatening. We don't sabotage love because we're broken. We sabotage it because something inside us still believes we're not worthy of being seen that deeply. So let's talk about the silent ways we push away what we most long for and how to stop. 1. Projection. Falling in love with a reflection. Jung warned us that until we become conscious of our inner world, we project it outward. This means that when someone stirs something powerful in us, we may not be falling in love with them, but with our own lost pieces mirrored in them. The problem? Once the projection fades, disillusionment sets in. You begin to question the connection. They no longer feel magical. But the issue isn't that the connection was fake. It's that the unconscious used it as a tool for growth. If you don't recognize that process, you'll either chase the projection endlessly or run from every person who reflects your shadow. True connection requires the courage to say, I see what you awaken in me, the good, the bad, the terrifying, and I'm willing to stay conscious of it. That's the difference between infatuation and intimacy. 2. Fear of vulnerability, wanting love without risk. Everyone wants to be loved, but few are willing to be fully seen. We crave emotional safety, but emotional safety requires vulnerability. And vulnerability feels like danger when you've been hurt. So we put up walls, even when the other person is safe. We test them, distance ourselves, or choose people who feel familiar but emotionally unavailable. Why? Because it's safer to repeat the past than to step into the unknown. This is how the unconscious protects us. But protection isn't healing. Jung taught that the shadow holds not only our wounds, but also our power. If we want to experience deep love, we must first reclaim the parts of ourselves that fear it. Ask yourself honestly, what part of me still believes love is dangerous? What part of me associates connection with loss or abandonment? These answers don't make you weak. They make you self-aware. And self-awareness is the doorway to healing. 3. Unworthiness, blocking love with I'm not enough. Perhaps the most tragic way we sabotage destined connections is by not believing we deserve them. This isn't always conscious. Sometimes it's subtle. You second-guess their interest, you downplay your value, you assume they'll leave. You find reasons to withdraw before they do. Why? Because rejection that you initiate feels less painful than rejection you didn't see coming. But in doing this, you reject yourself again and again. Carl Jung believed that the path to wholeness requires individuation, becoming fully who you are, beyond roles and personas. Love that's real can't reach the version of you that's pretending to be good enough. It can only meet the part of you that's real. That's where intimacy happens, and that's where healing begins. 4. Attachment to outcome, turning love into a destination. The ego wants guarantees. It wants to know, is this my soulmate? Will this last forever? But the unconscious is not concerned with permanence. It's concerned with transformation. That's why some of the most important people in our lives only stay for a season. They teach, they mirror, They break us open, and then they leave. It hurts, but it's sacred. If you cling to the outcome, you miss the purpose. And if you judge a connection by how long it lasted instead of how deeply it changed you, you'll live in disappointment. Jung wrote, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. Some of those disguises look like lovers. Some look like strangers. All of them are invitations, not to possess someone, but to become someone." 5. How to prepare for a fated connection. Now that we understand what blocks love, how do we open to it? First, do your inner work. This isn't just about healing trauma. It's about becoming intimate with your own psyche. Ask, what do I believe about love? Where did I learn that? Is it still true? Until you rewrite your inner story, you'll keep attracting people who confirm the old one. Second, embody wholeness. Jung taught that when we integrate the shadow, we no longer seek someone to complete us. We seek someone to meet us. You're not looking for your other half. You're looking for someone who matches your frequency, and that frequency is generated by how you live, how you love yourself, and how you hold space for your own humanity. Third, stay awake to synchronicity. The signs are subtle. They won't scream. They'll whisper. Trust your body, your intuition, the repeating patterns, but don't chase them. Let them unfold. Trust the timing. You don't have to search. You have to notice. And finally, be brave enough to receive. Let them see you. Let yourself be loved without explanation. The right connection will not require you to shrink, hide, or perform. It will meet you where you are and call you higher. In the end, the universe doesn't force what's meant to be. It simply aligns what's true. Your job is not to decode every sign or force every connection. Your job is to become the kind of person who can recognize the real thing when it arrives. Love, when it's real, feels like remembering. Like returning to something ancient and sacred that you almost forgot. It doesn't demand. It reflects. It reminds you of your essence. And when the signs come, not just outside of you, but from within you, you'll know. Not because it's perfect, not because it's painless, but because it feels like home. As Jung might say, what you are seeking is also seeking you. The connection that's meant for you is not lost. It's waiting for the version of you that no longer hides from yourself.